it partly just depends on the perspective of the person who's taking the quiz. So if I take a graded quiz and I don't just see my status as a result of the grade that I got, then it's better than if I'm looking at this and saying, oh, I only got a C, so I'm a C student. Hey, you found Ways We Learn, an investigation of how learning happens across all ages and modalities. Let's go learn something.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ways We Learn. My name is Joe Burgess, and I am joined by Sean Dagney-Clark. Today, we're going to be talking about a research article that's called Fostering Self-Directed Learning in MOOCs, Motivation, Learning Strategies, and Instruction. It's by three researchers who I'm probably going to say their name wrong, and I apologize, but it's Meina Zhu, Curtis Bonk, and Sara Berri. This article, this research paper, actually is from the Online Learning Journal from, I think, back in March of last year, and pretty much starts to go into what are the different ways students are doing self-directed learning in these MOOCs. So MOOCs are massive open online courses, Udemy, Udacity, edX, the big ones where there's millions of students and no teachers, usually no teachers. And they go on and what they do is actually they interview, I think about 18 or 20 students who are currently enrolled in a MOOC and ask them a bunch of questions. They're looking for three things. They're interested in kind of the motivation behind why folks are taking these courses. And then how does that motivation lead to different self-monitoring, different self-management techniques, and what works and what doesn't. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Sean and I read this and have a bunch of things we thought were interesting and things I disagreed with or we agreed with. And so we're going to first actually start off with the way they framed it is they kind of went from motivation and then taking kind of the intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. How does that then impact the different learning strategies or for self-monitoring, for self-management, just task strategies in general? And so let's start first with how they framed motivation. Intrinsic, no money, no real reward. It's just you do it because you want to be better. Extrinsic motivation in general is because you get paid or something like that. But one thing they did, which I think I disagree with, is they bucketed career development in extrinsic motivation. Mm-hmm. Now, if they had phrased it in the interviews of the questions as, I want to make more money, I think that is extrinsic. But when you phrase it and when you hear phrasing back from students that I'm joining this class for career development, I actually think that's intrinsic motivation. First, do you think that's intrinsic versus extrinsic? Mm-hmm. And then how do you actually change your framing of your instructional design for the course based on we're here to teach people who want career development?
It's an important thing. And I think that the way that they framed career development is kind of limiting, unfortunately, because they specifically say extrinsic motivation included supporting formal education and career development. And they're looking at it as these are things outside of you that you're trying to sort of improve, as opposed to something that's really internal. They list those things as personal interest, personal knowledge, curiosity. And I think it's problematic because there are extrinsic elements of career development. I want a higher salary. I want a better title. I want, better work conditions, something like that, a different job in a different place. Those are definitely extrinsic motivators. But part of, at least I hope for most people, part of having a career, a successful career, is having one that you're satisfied with, that you feel good about, getting recognition for doing things well or doing more and more complex work and feeling a sense of self-efficacy as a result of that. And so there's really elements of both. And I don't love that they said that career development is extrinsic. I think that limits it a bit too much.
I agree. I think your career, look, for better or for worse, your career is a lot of how you define yourself for most people. And it's about how people look at you. It's all kinds of stuff. And so I think the idea that, I think traditionally extrinsic motivation we shy away from and we want more intrinsic motivation. I think shying away from career development as maybe a bad reason to learn is wrong. I think it actually, and the reason is I actually do think career development is intrinsic motivation. That's a noble persona of student to create great programs for.
Hmm.
Because so much changes when you have a better career. Like, it's not just more cash in the bank, but there's all kinds of great research on, like, you end up being healthier. Like, all these things come
Right, right.
from career development and the stuff that comes from that.
The second part of your question was about designing for those things. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's kind of a vague answer, but I would think that you would want to design for both of them, right? Like, you want to design for the intrinsic parts of that, creating purpose, creating recognition, personal growth, and all of that stuff. But then on the same page, you're going to want to design something that's really practical, that's going to help somebody improve their salary. I mean, that's what Flatiron did, right? The whole point of that program was, come here, pay us a bit of money, and turn that around with an amazing ROI the first few years that you come out of this program. That's an extrinsic motivator, plain and simple. People are doing it because they believe that they want to be in this career, and that's really intrinsic. So it feels like you kind of design, it's almost like you design the program with more of the intrinsic in mind, and you design sort of the internals, the activities of it, maybe the marketing of it, with more of the extrinsic.
Did you learn something just now? Get the full episode of Ways We Learn wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, we'd love to get your rating or review.